Trapped with a mafia boss for 40 minutes. What she discovered will leave you amazed. The diner was supposed to be her sanctuary, a small escape from the whirlwind of her intern duties. Sarah's 26-year-old self hovered between exhaustion and disbelief, her heart drumming a frantic beat as she slammed down her bag and sank into a booth. Today was particularly chaotic. Her attending had thrown endless tasks her way, each one demanding perfection she didn't feel she had. She looked down at her lukewarm sandwich, feeling more like a mechanical cog than a healer in training. As she took a deep breath, trying to dispel thoughts of scathing comments from her colleagues, the door swung open. Without warning, a rush of patrons flooded in, and before she could register, a man plopped down across from her. It was Vincent, the Viper. Already his presence sucked the air from the room, silencing the eager conversations. Every whispered tale she had ever heard about him flooded her mind, a deluge of violence and chaos, twisted by loyalty. Her heart raced, sweat prickled down her back, she wanted to disappear. "What did you think you saw?" came his low, gravelly voice, pulling her from her spiraling thoughts. Trapped with a mafia boss, her life had taken a decidedly sharp turn. "Oh, okay," she stammered, unsure of how to navigate the tension. Why was he even looking at her? She wrestled with her instincts, wanting to bolt from the booth and hide, yet a flicker of fierce determination ignited within her. She shared the same relentless pressure to succeed, whether from a crime family or medical background. "People think they know me," Vincent continued, an edge creeping into his voice. "But they've got it all twisted." A dull ache filled Sarah's heart as she listened. The knot of fear inside her melted into curiosity, a longing to know why this enigma of a man felt so conflicted. His eyes glimmered with something deeper, a reflection of her own insecurities. They shared tales of burdens, he of a brother lost, she of dreams submerged in expectations. She felt emboldened, yet raw, and a part of her was afraid to probe too deeply. The diner buzzed around them, and the hum of life felt unyielding, a stark contrast to the pause hanging between them. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Something inside her flickered at that moment. He was raw and real, a stark contrast to her plastic world of formal gowns and sterile hospitals. But before she could process her thoughts further, outside sounds shattered. The fragile exchange sirens blared, a cacophony of chaos. "Damn," he muttered under his breath, eyes narrowing. Her heart sank, realizing the imminent danger surrounding him. Her instinct screamed to help him, yet was she willing to risk everything she had fought for? Would she betray their connection, or would she stand firm, knowing this familiar dance of sacrifice and duty tugged at her in ways she never expected? As the clatter of footsteps approached and she felt the weight of his desperate gaze on her, the unthinkable enclosed them. The diner's door swung open again, leaving them caught in an unresolved spiral of decisions that felt too colossal to bear. What would she do when faced with risk of losing everything she had worked for, or risk of losing the chance to finally connect with someone who understood the very essence of struggle? In that heart-stopping moment of uncertainty, everything lay unresolved, and all she could hear was the relentless thrum of her heart in her ears. Vincent's eyes darted towards the door, tension radiating from him like heat from a flame. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she processed the urgency, the impending danger looming over them. This was madness. She was an intern, not a hero, and yet something compelled her to stand firm. A strange sense of duty welled up in her chest. Did she even know what she was stepping into? "You need to go," she whispered, her voice barely audible amidst the clamor of the diner. It felt surreal advising a man used to orchestrating chaos, a paradox, like giving orders to a thunderstorm. "Not without you," Vincent replied, his voice steely, his resolve unwavering. His gaze locked onto hers, stripping away her uncertainty. They were two individuals entwined in an unexpected alliance, each grappling with the weight of their own worlds. The footsteps drew closer, voices rising, alarmed as patrons began to sense the electric atmosphere. She had no idea what to expect next. Would this be the moment she would be dragged deeper into his tumultuous life, or walk away unscathed? Her rational mind tried to shatter the allure of the moment. She could turn him in, she could alert the authorities. But then an image of her own life, a life carefully constructed beneath layers of service, dedication, and perseverance, flashed across her mind. Indeed, she fought hard each day, buried beneath scrutiny and expectations. Did she not deserve to break free, even if just for this fleeting instant? "You don't know me," she found herself saying, reluctant yet resolute. "I wouldn't last in your world. Not a chance." Vincent leaned closer, his expression intense, narrowing the space of doubt spiraling between them. "And you think you know your world perfectly? What if I told you I see something in you? A hunger maybe? A desire to push against the boundaries?" His words hung in the air, reverberating deeper than a simple compliment. It landed hard in her gut, igniting something long suppressed. He was right. She had spent years crafting her facade, embodying the perfect intern, yet inside, there was an insatiable thirst for truth, real connection, unfiltered experiences. Could she explore that risk here? With him? The clamor intensified, cutting her thoughts short. The door behind Vincent slammed open, flooding the diner with a cold draft. A figure emerged, clad in dark clothing, and as their eyes met, dread twisted in Sarah's stomach. The man who lumbered in wasn't merely an observer, he was a threat. "Vincent Moretti," the man barked, unyielding and authoritative. The weight of his tone crystallized the reality she had been dancing around. This was no mere confrontation, this was the stark formation of personal stakes. She stood at the precipice of a decision that could overturn her meticulously carved future. Sarah's heart raced as her body screamed for action. Blinking away uncertainty, she laid her hand atop Vincent's, drawing his attention back. "Maybe," she whispered, breathing in courage. "Maybe I don't want to know what's safe anymore. But if I'm doing this, you have to promise no shortcuts. No collateral damage." Another voice echoed back, sharp with impatience. "You think you can get through this alive? You're naive." Vincent's focus remained unwavering, charged with the fire of a man who had seen it all but was willing to protect, to fight if necessary. "We'll do this together. We're more alike than you know." Sarah inhaled deeply, her resolve crystallizing. The doubt was creeping in, but there was also a thrill coursing through her veins. She was here, on the brink of experiencing the unknown, and suddenly, the boundaries of her safe world began to blur. She had faced countless challenges, but never had she confronted one so pivotal. With the threat looming and uncertainty wrapping around her, Sarah dared to consider the possibilities that awaited her choices, teetering between her old life and a new destiny. "Let us see what comes next," she said, a shiver of fierceness slicing through her words, a defiance born from connection and the thrill of risk. And just as they thought they could handle whatever lay ahead, another set of footsteps echoed closer, triggering a pulse of panic through her. The real chaos had only just begun, and a question loomed over them: would she seize this moment or watch it slip into darkness? As the footsteps drew nearer, Sarah's mind raced through possibilities, each scenario flashing before her like scenes from a film unraveling at warp speed. The tension rested in the air, a tangible force wrapping itself around her like a heavy shroud. Would she transform into someone she herself didn't recognize, or would she falter at the first sight of adversity? The figure at the door began to materialize, intent on a mission that felt undeniably personal. Deep within, Sarah felt the weight of her own inadequacies clash against her adamant resolve. In that moment, she had to confront her fears: the fear of stepping into a world so alien, yet magnetically alluring, and the fear of losing the safe structure she had built for herself. With Vincent beside her, the world outside felt dangerous yet intoxicating. The clamor of the diner faded into a muffled background, transforming him into an anchor amid the shifting sea. He exuded an enviable confidence that ignited something within her, a latent strength she had always invested in others, but had never dared to embrace herself. This was a threshold, a moment suspended between weighty choices and unclear destinies. "Stay behind me," Vincent instructed, his voice low and commanding. His protective instinct flickered to the forefront as he stepped slightly in front of her, forming a barrier between her and the ominous intruder. But as she watched him, something shifted in her perspective. He might possess power and influence, but she realized that there was an indomitable will deep within her waiting to be unleashed. She wasn't merely a bystander in this chaotic narrative, she was an active participant, capable of shaping her own trajectory, irrespective of the consequences. "Vincent, wait," she said, her voice steadier now, tinged with unexpected resolve. "If we're doing this together, we need to communicate. We can't just react, we need a plan." His eyes narrowed slightly as he regarded her, surprise flickering across his features before they settled into admiration. "You have more fire than I expected," he remarked, a hint of respect threading through his tone. The realization that her voice could command authority, however small, illuminated areas of her character she had never fully explored. She shifted her stance, standing shoulder to shoulder with him, her unexpected bravery fusing into a vision. Each heartbeat echoed her determination to face whatever was coming. The dark-clad figure spoke again, authority wrapped tightly around his words. He called Vincent's name again, demanding attention like a wolf circling prey. But rather than feeling overwhelmed, Sarah reveled in a newfound clarity. Her heart pounded with purpose, each thud reminding her that she was not just an intern but a woman capable of forging her own destiny, even if the stakes were perilous. As Vincent braced himself for confrontation, she caught the reflection of fear and doubt swirling in his guarded eyes, an emotion he was not keen to display, not even to her. There was vulnerability in strength, and as she reached out to him, she felt a connection solidifying between them. "Look and listen," she said, pointing toward their surroundings, focusing on the growing tension rather than on the looming threat. Her instincts sharpened, illuminating details: the layout of the diner, the anger rising in anxious patrons, the potential exits, all resources she could use. Vincent turned to her, the air crackling with unspoken emotions. This was a moment not just to act, but to realize their potential as partners. "We can do this." Her voice steadied as confidence poured forth, twining itself with his determination. The moment froze, and she could almost hear the rustling of destiny in the air. With every ounce of her being, Sarah realized that she had the ability to craft her own narrative from here on. The looming figure, still undeterred, took a step toward them. Time seemed suspended, thick with expectation. "Your choices opened a door you cannot close," he growled, menace lacing his words. Her heart raced not in fear, but in anticipation. They were about to engage in something monumental, and whatever fate had in store, she was ready to stand tall, facing her fears head-on. In this swirling storm of uncertainty, she sensed the gravity of the impending confrontation, the call to action echoing within her as she prepared to embrace the chaos. Was this the beginning of her metamorphosis into someone extraordinary? But just as the confrontation escalated, a new voice pierced the tension in the room, delivering a chilling invitation laced with danger, leaving the air thick with uncertainty. Would she be swallowed whole by this unfolding drama, or would she rise beyond her own expectations? As the new voice reverberated through the diner, Sarah felt the atmosphere shift. Tension coiled tighter, and the brief reprieve of camaraderie with Vincent splintered into raw uncertainty. A chill crawled up her spine as she turned to face the unexpected speaker, her heart racing against the alarms blaring in her head. "Quiet down, everyone," the newcomer said, his tone smooth but carrying an unmistakable edge, as if he was accustomed to having his commands followed. "There's no need for further escalation." The patronized diner patrons fell silent, fear painting their faces. Her eyes flicked to Vincent, who appeared momentarily transfixed by the sudden authority in the room. It was a fracture in the moment, his protective veneer cracked as he assessed the threat before them. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded, too aware of the lively chaos boiling under the surface of her voice. Every instinct urged her to retreat, to allow the men to protect her. But where Vincent saw danger, she saw an opportunity, a chance to uncover her strength, to harness something more than the role of an intern. "My name is Nicholas," the man replied, stepping forward with a confidence that made Sarah wary, though curiosity fought to overtake her apprehension. "And I'm here to offer you both a proposition." She noted the flicking irritation in Vincent's jaw. It mirrored her inner turmoil. She wanted to demand answers, but every word tasted like fragility. "And why would we even consider talking to you?" Vincent tightened his grip on her arm, subtly radiating his protective energy. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice grave. Nicholas smiled, a chilling grin that hinted at underlying menace. "I want to help," he began, holding Sarah's gaze. "You seem resourceful. You could be an asset." His eyes gleamed with the promise of power, but her gut twisted. She had fought so hard to claim her own path. The last thing she needed was to get tangled in someone else's game, especially one as dangerous as this. But Nicholas was more than just a threat, he was a catalyst, for better or worse. "An asset?" Sarah echoed, fighting against the mix of intrigue and disgust swirling within her. "You think I'd work for someone like you?" "Think about it, Sarah," he pressed, undeterred. "The two of you are on the brink of something significant, whether you realize it or not. I can give you leverage, information, whatever you need to seize your opportunities. But you need to be willing to play in a world that isn't afraid of blood or betrayal." As his words washed over her, Sarah felt a spark. This wasn't just an encounter, it was a crossroads. She could either remain anchored in her comfort zone behind Vincent or leap into the unknown, exploring the depths of her capability and pulling away the veil concealing her own potential. "I'm listening," she found herself saying, her voice cutting through the tension. The decision sprang from somewhere deep within, and she felt the weight of Vincent's surprise sink into her skin. She felt his shift beside her, but this wasn't about him, it was about her. "Sarah," Vincent warned quietly, but his tone was less about denial and more a plea for her to reconsider the risk ahead. "Vincent," she replied, unwavering. "This is my choice. I need to understand what I'm capable of." The challenge in Nicholas's eyes ignited something within her, drawing her into a world where she could rise, not just with Vincent by her side, but on her own merit. Every instinct had warned her against the chaos she faced, yet she found thrill in the notion of testing her own limits, carving an identity that was entirely her own. "Well then," Nicholas said, the satisfaction in his voice almost palpable. "Let's discuss how you can prove your worth. There's a certain elegance in taking risks, and I can be your guide." The stakes tightened, each moment weighed down by uncharted potential. Would she rediscover her own definition of strength amid this chaos? As she focused on the escalating tension, she felt the thrill coursing through her, igniting a fire within a resolve to confront whatever lay ahead. But as she turned her attention back to Vincent, who watched her with a mix of admiration and concern, she couldn't shake the feeling that this decision would ripple beyond the present moment, altering the shapes of their futures in ways she couldn't yet fathom. "Are you with me?" she asked quietly, the challenge resonating in the charged space. His eyes searched hers. In this pivotal moment, she wasn't just testing her own mettle, she was reaching out for a connection that could anchor both of them in the chaos. Would he trust her judgment, or would her choice create yet another fracture in their partnership? A new urgency rippled beneath the surface. This interplay of choices could either secure her evolution or dismantle what little stability she had forged. In the simmering confrontation ahead, Sarah prepared to step into the darkness, forging an alliance that dared to blur the lines of her moral compass. The impact of the impending decision echoed in her mind, whispering of both empowerment and peril. How far was she willing to go to claim her identity? And would she emerge stronger or forever altered in a way she could never reclaim? Nicholas's smirk deepened, as though he relished in the tension unfurling. "Why not dive a little deeper into your potential, Sarah? You fear the unknown, yet it holds the keys to your growth." Sarah, don't, Vincent urged again, but the urgency of his plea seemed to dissolve into the background as she focused on the fire ignited within her. Her instincts screamed in contradiction. She had craved recognition and affirmation of her capabilities, but was it worth it if the path led through darkness? What do you have in mind? She asked, her voice steadier than the rapid tempo of her heart. Meet me in the old factory at the edge of town tomorrow at noon. Discreetly. Bring Vincent, he can be your protector, Nicholas proposed, his voice low and enticing, as though he were offering forbidden fruit. Vincent's grip on her arm tightened further. You can't seriously be considering this, he interjected, a palpable mixture of anger and concern etched on his face. This is dangerous. Dangerous. The word thrummed in her veins. Yet, beneath the caution urged by Vincent, something deeper stirred a reckless yearning to break free from the confines of expectation. I'll think about it, she said, but it wasn't merely a dismissal. It was an internal negotiation, a manifesto of her will to explore the boundaries that had been drawn for her. We don't have time to waste, Nicholas replied, stepping back as he scanned the diner. Your choice could shape this very moment into something grander than either of you can imagine. Only the bold will forge their paths. And tomorrow may be the day you finally take the leap. He sauntered away, leaving an electrified air to hang between them. As Sarah turned back to Vincent, she felt the weight of this decision shift, creating a rift between them. The uncertainty in Vincent's gaze challenged her, questioning how far she was willing to stretch both her ambition and their relationship. Vincent, I need to test myself. I can't keep living in shadows. Her voice was firm, though a part of her vibrated with trepidation beneath the surface. This is about more than just us, this is about discovering who I am alone. You're not just some pawn in a game. He protested, his voice laden with frustration. You could get hurt. And staying in the safe zone ensures I never grow. I need to know I can face this. It's not just your decision, it's mine, she retorted, forcing her conviction against the growing seed of doubt creeping in. Something snapped between them. Though they shared a bond anchored in trust, Sarah realized that she must eventually define her path without being tethered to Vincent's protective impulse. As comforting as it was, she felt suffocated beneath it. I can't hold your hand forever, he murmured, eyes softening as his defenses lowered momentarily. If you go down this path and get burned, I won't be able to bear the guilt. Her heart hammered, the weight of their connection pressing against her determination. This is my chance, Vincent. I want to prove to myself that I can step out of your shadow and create my own name. His silence stretched, but it wasn't a dismissal, it was something deeper and understanding laced with fear. I'll always be here, but I can't stop you, he finally whispered, his expression torn. And there it was, the tentative acceptance of her journey, yet the concern for her safety never strayed far from his eyes. She understood that this decision carried the risk of altering more than just the dynamics of their partnership. Setting her jaw, Sarah resolved to rise above self-doubt and embrace what lay ahead. The potential offered by Nicholas was tantalizing, but it also meant leaping into a world ruled by chaos and ethics stained with gray. That night, she lay in bed, heart racing with anticipation. The thought of standing at the precipice of a new chapter filled her with exhilarating fear. She could either conquer her insecurities or let them consume her. Doubt lingered, but with each passing hour, she cultivated a determination that felt unfamiliar yet oddly empowering. She was ready to confront the uncertainties of her choices. Tomorrow would be a defining moment. Would she embrace the tempest swirling on the horizon or turn away, allowing opportunities to slip through her fingers? As morning dawned, she felt her resolve harden. It wasn't just about rejecting Vincent's advice, it was about blazing a path fueled by her exploration of identity and agency. What could await her in that factory, and how would her decisions change the course of her life forever? Each moment held potential, and as she took the first step toward carving her name in the world, she felt the weight of her choice soaring in her chest. She would no longer softly wade into the unknown, this time, she would leap. As the sun crested the horizon, unveiling a world gilded in soft amber light, Sarah felt a surge of resolve coursing through her veins. The old factory loomed on the outskirts of town, a hulking shadow against the morning glow. It was here that she would confront not just Nicholas but her own limitations, in a place whispered about in the shadows of their society. Vincent had offered her a ride, silent and tense, his eyes flicking nervously to her every few moments. Anxiety rippled between them, a chasm widening with expectations and unspoken fears. Sarah could feel the weight of the decision to step into that potential chaos, swallowing any remnants of doubt she had clung to. "Are you sure about this?" Vincent finally broke the silence as they parked outside the factory, the vehicle's engine fading to an unsettling quiet. "It's now or never," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. They exited the car, the air thick with a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. Each step toward the entrance felt like a pulse beating in rhythm with her mounting anticipation. Inside, the factory felt alive in a different sense. Dust motes danced in the slanted light filtering through cracked windows, creating an almost ethereal glow over rusted machinery and shadows that seemed to whisper secrets. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, that familiar impulse to retreat tugging at her, but she brushed it aside. What if it's a trap? Vincent's voice lowered, laced with a protection instinct that grated against her rising independence. She turned to him sharply. "Then I'll deal with it. I want to know if I can handle whatever comes next." He sighed, but there was a flicker of respect in his eyes as he nodded. They moved deeper inside, navigating through the crumbling corridors, the ticking of some unseen clock echoing their cautious footsteps. When they reached the heart of the structure, the expansive main floor laid out before them like an arena. The very air pulsed with tension. And there he stood, Nicholas, leaning casually against a wall, his posture relaxed yet predatory. "You made it," he greeted with an enigmatic smile that twisted the corners of his mouth. "I hoped you would." "Let's get to it," Sarah declared, her voice firm despite the shudder of uncertainty that fluttered within her. "Very well. Let's see how far you're willing to go." Nicholas motioned them to a table where various tools and materials lay scattered, remnants of both craftsmanship and decay. "This is where you will test your capabilities, your willingness to navigate the unknown. Show me what you've got." Sarah's gaze flicked to Vincent, who hovered protectively, scanning the room as if anticipating threats. She felt the tug of loyalty and the safety of staying within prescribed boundaries, but the desire for self-discovery surged through her, potent and insistent. "Let me do this," she urged, pushing past the instinct to retreat. Here was an opportunity, no more waiting, no more hesitation. "Very well," said Nicholas, his voice smooth as silk. "Let's push some boundaries." Moments later, she found herself immersed in tasks that challenged her wit and dexterity, each movement stirring a mix of exhilaration and uncertainty. She hadn't anticipated how adept her hands would feel as she manipulated the materials, her mind illuminating pathways she hadn't realized existed within her. "Good," Nicholas stated, his gaze sharpening. "You have potential, but you're still holding back." She bit her lip, a spark igniting within her that dared her to take a bolder leap. "What if I choose to let go? What would that look like?" He challenged, stepping closer, his intensity anchoring her desire for gravity-defying self-worth. Suddenly the clock chimed, slicing through the silence with a sharp, undeniable urgency. Reality jolted back into focus. 50 minutes, Vincent murmured anxiously, his brow furrowed with concern. At that moment, clarity washed over her. This was more than a test of skills, it was a challenge demanding both courage and conviction. Rapid fire, she began piecing together both the fragments of her identity and the task before her, the walls around her trembling with potential energy, each heartbeat echoing with the need to reclaim herself. "Enough of the games," she declared, standing tall. "I'm ready." But just as those words left her mouth, the factory doors slammed shut behind them, the noise reverberating like a thunderclap. Nicholas's grin widened, relishing the surprise and intensity building within the moment. Now, let us really see what you're made of, shall we? As the implications of their new predicament settled in, Sarah faced him, determination sparking in her eyes. Was she ready for what lay ahead? The stakes heightened dramatically, and in that electric air, she felt an unyielding urge to venture into the throes of chaos and challenge herself like never before. What would she uncover about her own strength, and how much was she prepared to sacrifice to emerge victorious? The silence that enveloped the room was thick enough to suffocate. Sarah's hands trembled slightly, whether from fear or adrenaline, she couldn't tell. Nicholas's gaze scanned her, a predator savoring the moment before the hunt. She could feel the weight of the factory walls closing in, the sharp edges of uncertainty sharpening her resolve. Where do we start? She managed, her voice cutting through the tension with surprising determination. Let us begin with your greatest fear, Nicholas replied, his cool demeanor radiating confidence. He stepped back, allowing the space between them to shift the dynamic, and gestured toward a series of items laid out on the weathered table, a variety of tools that looked more menacing than functional. Her mind raced. Facing fear was more than just a mental exercise, it required belief in herself, the kind she had sought but never fully owned. With each passing second, she could hear the ticking clock in her head, amplifying her heartbeat as she fought the urge to flee. Sarah took a deep breath, grounding herself. If I'm to face my fear, I first have to define it. Good. What is it? His tone was both mocking and intrigued, a blend that only ignited her resolve further. The challenge loomed before her, and she couldn't back down now. Failure, she said boldly, the word escaping her lips almost in defiance. The fear of not being enough. Then let us create failure, he suggested, a glint of mischief in his eyes. You have 40 minutes to build something using these materials. If it doesn't work, you will face the consequences. Consequences? Vincent interjected, his voice strained. What do you mean? Nicholas spared him a glance, dismissive yet amused. Let her discover what consequences mean in this world. It's part of growth. Fear clawed at her insides, but the spark ignited by Nicholas's challenge urged her forward. She stepped toward the table, determined to own her limitations. As her fingers grazed against the rough surface of a tool, an electric thrill shot through her. The blurred boundary between fear and excitement began to sharpen. This was where she could unearth her true capabilities. She set to work, her brain firing in overdrive. With every cut, every twist of a screw, she could feel her growing confidence. Each piece fell into place as if they were unlocking dormant parts of her identity. It was liberating yet terrifying, two emotions intermingled, creating a volatile cocktail that pushed her limits. Less hesitation, more action, Nicholas called out, his voice slicing through her focus. The critical note forced her to confront her own tendencies the way she sometimes second-guessed her decisions, trapped by self-doubt. But in this moment, she chose to abandon that inner critic. As she continued her creation, a sense of clarity surrounded her. The factory became her ally, the shadows her spectators. For the first time, she wasn't merely doing something, she was becoming something, an architect of her own fate. Time flew, the countdown was relentless. 20 minutes left. Ah, but can you feel it? Nicholas taunted, his smug smile persistent. You're still afraid. Allow the fear to fuel you, Sarah. Don't avoid it. His words struck her like lightning. Allowing fear to be a fuel. The mere concept twisted in her mind, illuminating a path she had never considered. The noise of failure transformed into a whisper of resilience. If she could conjure courage from within, then fear could become an asset rather than a hindrance. With renewed fervor, she pushed herself. She was no longer merely reacting to a challenge, she was actively sculpting her destiny. As the final minutes ticked down, she could almost taste victory. Her creation began to take on a semblance of form, a tangible representation of her efforts, of her deliberate defiance against everything that had held her back. Time's running out. Vincent's voice sounded distant, almost muted in her burgeoning focus. Nicholas stepped closer, his shadow falling over her work. Let us see what happens next. She took a deep breath, anticipation coursing through her. This was not just about building something, this was an embodiment of her journey, a confrontation with her own deficits and triumphs, the very culmination of what she had sought so earnestly, self-acceptance and determination. With seconds to spare, she prepared for the unveiling, her heart pounding ferociously in her chest. Would she indeed face failure, or have she transcended her fears in an unforeseen way? As she brought her creation forward, the tension in the air crescendoed to a palpable peak, leaving her teetering on the brink of discovery. What awaited her on the other side of this pivotal moment, and how would it redefine her view of herself? The seconds ticked past in slow motion as Sarah steadied her hands, the tension palpable. She could feel Nicholas's gaze boring into her, assessing her every move as she revealed her creation. A contraption of metal and wood, rigged and precarious, yet undeniably a reflection of her newfound bravery. As she stepped back, anticipation infused the air. Nicholas inspected her work, his brow furrowed, a sly smile slowly emerging. Interesting. But will it work? He leaned in closer, inspecting the joints she had crafted, each deliberate turn of the screw punctuating her struggle against fear. Here goes nothing, she murmured, pushing down on the lever she had fashioned. The machine whirred a sound reminiscent of a living thing coming to life. Sarah's heart raced, her breathing quickening. Perhaps she could defy the very thing she had long dreaded. But as the machine sputtered and ground to a halt instead of executing its intended function, despair began to creep back in. This feels like failure, she whispered, her bravado wavering. Nicholas's eyes sparked with delight. Does it feel like failure? Or is it the start of something more? She swallowed hard, reeling from the weight of that question. In that moment, something shifted within her, it struck her that failure itself was not the worst outcome. It was the absence of growth, the refusal to evolve despite discomfort. A potent realization took root: vulnerability was not a weakness, it was a crucible for transformation. How can I make it better? She asked, her voice tinged with determination. Precisely what you need to ask, Sarah. Every setback is an opportunity for development. Let us refine it, Nicholas replied, his expression shifting from mockery to an encouraging intensity. There was clarity in his words. As she dissected her creation, analyzing each misstep, she felt a sense of empowerment she hadn't anticipated. There was something exhilarating in problem-solving, of engaging with the complexity of her circumstances. It was like peeling back layers of self-doubt, revealing the core of her potential. With renewed energy, she grabbed the tools again. Each adjustment was akin to rewriting her script of self-worth, shifting the narrative from one of inadequacy to empowerment. She sought the flaws she had initially dreaded, their presence now a key to unlocking an improved version of herself. 10 minutes left, Vincent reminded, a hint of urgency in his voice. She was overwhelmed but focused. While the counter in her mind threatened her resolve, she chose clarity over chaos. She aligned the pieces with a precision she hadn't known she possessed, trusting in her instincts rather than fear. The sound of grinding gears under her hands became a soundtrack to her transformation. Much better, Nicholas commented, nodding approvingly as she tightened the final bolt. What do you call it? Sarah smiled, the name rolling off her tongue with newfound confidence. Empowerment Machine. The name felt right, it embodied her journey, the fusion of fear and resilience. She stood back and pulled the lever once again, heart racing. The contraption hummed violently before finally springing to life, launching a single wooden ball into the air, claiming its trajectory with astonishing accuracy before landing harmlessly on the ground. See? Nicholas remarked, his satisfaction evident. You transformed your fear into action. Exhilaration surged through her. It was more than just a small victory, it was a revelation, a bold testament that every setback laid a path for growth. This moment symbolized her shifting perception, her reluctance to view failure as a dead end. Breathlessly triumphant, Sarah faced Nicholas, who wore a proud grin. She had taken a step toward understanding that what she feared most could be her greatest ally. But as she stood there, triumphant yet aware, another question hung in the air. Had she merely begun? Ready for the next challenge? Nicholas asked, the playful challenge throbbing in his tone. His words reverberated in her mind, sparking a new layer of anxiety mixed with anticipation. She had only just begun to scratch the surface of her capabilities, and now, with momentum on her side, it was time to plunge deeper into the unknown. What awaited her in the next trial, and how would she harness the power of her recent awakening? The challenge hung heavy in the air, its implications clearer than any words could convey. As the gears in Sarah's mind whirred with the promise of innovation and growth, she couldn't shake the feeling that this next endeavor would be unlike any she had faced before. Nicholas watched her intently, sensing the hesitation that threatened to break the surface of her newfound confidence. "Focus, Sarah," he said, his tone shifting from playful to serious. "This isn't just about what you can build, it's about who you choose to become in the process." She noted the gravity in his voice, a reminder that the stakes had been raised. What new challenges lay ahead? Would she be able to maintain her momentum, or was disaster lurking in the shadows of her bravado? "Tell me what's next," she prompted, her voice steadier now, as she fought to dispel the lingering doubts. She wouldn't let this opportunity slip away. She was done allowing fear to dictate her actions. "You need to create something practical," he replied, gesturing toward a pile of materials cluttering the corner of the workshop. "And it must serve a direct purpose. This will push you beyond creativity into the realm of utility. You will need to collaborate and strategize, not only with me but also with others in the room." His words struck a chord. Collaboration was not her strongest skill. History had taught her that teamwork sometimes morphed into chaos. She felt the flicker of anxiety return but extinguished it quickly with a sense of determination. This was an opportunity to dismantle yet another fear. As other team members filed into the workshop, Sarah felt a jolt of adrenaline. Each person had their own unique set of skills, and she could feel their eyes curious, uncertain, but nonetheless eager. She faced them, her chest rising and falling as she prepared to address this new dynamic. "Let us identify a problem we can solve together," she started, her voice firm, propelled by a sudden rush of clarity. The team followed her lead as ideas bounced off walls, an explosive exchange fueled by the chaos of group dynamics. They debated, disagreed, and built, each step making Sarah more aware of her capacity to unite disparate ideas into a coherent vision. However, unease clawed at her insides. Would they accept her leadership? A sudden burst of creativity sparked as one colleague suggested a device to automate data collection for local businesses, an opportunity to interlace technology with real-world applications. Sarah saw the tangible potential and felt her heart race with anticipation. But anxiety still hovered. What if her guiding vision fell short? "Okay, let us do it," she affirmed, hands trembling slightly as she took the lead to sketch out the initial design. The collaborative process illuminated avenues she had never considered, unveiling her capacity to synthesize diverse perspectives. Each contribution layered with importance, and as they formulated a plan, Sarah asserted herself with newfound authority. Yet, as the blueprint materialized, a thought nagged at her: what if somebody was resistant to her direction? As the clock ticked, measuring their progress, doubts intertwined with determination. This was not just about the device or proving herself. It was a test of her ability to navigate interpersonal complexities while carrying the weight of leadership. "Time is short. I need you all to trust the vision. We can't afford fear," she challenged, glancing at those around her. Their nods fueled her resolve. As they gathered the materials, she felt the palpable tension shift from anxiety into a thrilling blend of anticipation and urgency. They were heading into uncharted territory, a synthesis of technology and tangible impact, but would it come together? The quest for efficiency and creativity collided at the crossroads of her self-discovery, but she could sense the stakes had risen higher. What did it mean to truly lead when doubt overshadowed every decision? "Ready to initiate the build?" Nicholas questioned, a hint of excitement threading through his words. Let us make it happen. Sarah replied, firm and determined. Yet, as she uttered the words, she felt the intensity of expectation crackle like electricity, leaving her questioning if she had secured the trust of her team or merely danced around it. She took a deep breath, forces colliding within as they approached the precipice of their first real challenge. Time faded into the background, and the realization hit hard: she was now the architect of not just a creation, but of her own evolution. What awaited them as they began to construct, and would she be able to sustain this fragile balance of trust and leadership? The factory hummed with energy as Sarah guided her team into the heartbeat of their ambitious project. No longer just an intern overshadowed by doubt, she stood at the forefront of collaboration, transformed from a reluctant participant into a leader embracing her potential. The air crackled with urgency as they gathered materials, and the countdown clock symbolized not just time but the weight of their shared goals. Let us ensure we're communicating effectively. No fear, she reiterated, her voice steady, reminding both herself and her colleagues that this moment mattered. They were about to craft a solution that fused ingenuity with purpose, a tangible lifeline to local businesses longing for efficient data management. Right, one of her teammates replied, his enthusiasm infectious. Let us split into groups and tackle the components based on our strengths. With a nod of approval, Sarah aligned herself to lead one team while another colleague took the reins for the tech side build. She felt a rush, something inside her clicked, a sign that she was finally stepping into her own narrative. The clock ticked down, every minute urging them to work harder and smarter. As she coordinated efforts, she felt a connection to her teammates, sharing not just ideas but a sense of empowerment. Every adjustment produced echoes of trust, every acknowledgement solidified her place in this creative tapestry they were weaving together. Yet, self-doubt still lurked in the corners of her mind, ready to rear its head. And in a moment of quiet, she felt the shift. What if they didn't trust her judgment? What if she fell short? Circle back and double-check everything, she instructed, her tone confident. If we collaborate well, we'll minimize errors and maximize our impact. Her team responded with determination, heads nodding in agreement. They were following her lead, aligning behind a shared vision, enhancing her confidence. And as minutes melted away, hope transformed into methodical creation. 3 minutes left. Nicholas called, the stakes pulsing palpably with urgency. As they spiraled into the final adjustments of the prototype came to life with a mechanical whir, illuminating the previously sterile factory environment with a sense of possibility. When it came time to present their creation, Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. Pride, dedication, and a newfound recognition of her capabilities surged within. Standing in front of Nicholas, her teammates behind her, she pulled the lever. The device whirred to life, executing its function flawlessly, data flowing with astonishing precision. A triumphant cheer erupted among her teammates, and she was thrust into their circle, a flash of camaraderie that felt not just like victory, but a triumph of self-actualization. Excellent work. You all showed remarkable collaboration, Nicholas remarked, his approving smile revealing a depth of respect. Sarah, you led this entire endeavor. You took the chaos of uncertainty and emerged as a beacon of clarity. A swell of pride enveloped her as they exchanged glances, her teammates' expressions affirming her role. We all contributed equally. Without you and each of your insights, none of this would be possible, she responded, genuine gratitude flooding her voice. In that moment, she realized how much she had evolved. No longer a cog in someone else's machinery, she had forged her own place. She stood not only as a healer training in a sterile classroom but now embraced the identity of a capable leader who could initiate changes. As the day wound down and they prepared to leave the factory, the weight of her previous fears began to dissipate. She felt light, free from the constraints of expectation that once clung to her like unwanted shadows. In stepping beyond the boundaries of convention and allowing herself to explore her capabilities, she had reclaimed her narrative. In the very hours that followed, she reflected on her journey. Her willingness to confront fear had unlocked doors she never knew existed. As Sarah gazed at her teammates, a sense of Belonging and accomplishment surged within her, a tangible recognition that she was not just enough, she was extraordinary in her own right. The events had illuminated the truth. Personal empowerment arose not from avoiding fear but embracing it, and from realizing that each setback was an opportunity in disguise. As they left, she exchanged a lingering look with Vincent, who waited at the entrance. This time his gaze spoke volumes: pride, support, and unwavering belief in her flourishing. With a steady heartbeat, she nodded, knowing she would chart her own course moving forward. There would be no regrets. "Let us go home," she said, embracing the exhilarating unknown that lay ahead, her voice resonating with gravity and purpose. Now a new chapter beckoned, armed with lessons learned and the foundation of transformation laid. Sarah was no longer timid, she was ready to conquer whatever came next with solid confidence rooted in genuine achievement. In this fractal universe of possibilities, she had embarked on a journey of self-discovery, proud to embrace every aspect of her evolving identity. To all who have followed her path, remember, transformation is within your reach if you dare to confront your fears and embrace the unwavering power of resilience. You need to subscribe now to join us for the next exhilarating tale of personal triumph. Leave a like now to energize this journey of growth and discovery, because it truly makes a difference. Comment your thoughts, theories, and takeaways. I want to hear how this speaks to you. And lastly, share instantly this conclusion with at least 5 friends who need inspiration and empowerment in their own lives. Don't wait even one more second to share.